The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Leadership Podcast. It's yet another edition of the Big Issue. And of course, sorry for the slight delay. It was due to some technical hitches beyond our control. And of course, without wasting much of your time, as you can see, our in-house analysts are already seated, take you on the big issue of the day. And of course, by my immediate right here, we have Nse Oko.
Thank you.
And of course, Isaac Amore is also here.
My pleasure to be here, George.
And of course, a regular analyst, Silas Ezegu, is also here.
You're welcome.
And of course, the big issue of the day is the DNA testing and paternity fraud in Nigeria. Recently, a senior geneticist with some DNA Center for Paternity Test, Abiodun Salami, said 6 of 10 children in Nigeria brought for DNA testing are not fathered by their supposed fathers. In an interview, he granted a frontline media premium time. Salami revealed the growing level of paternity fraud and the practice of DNA testing in Nigeria. And of course, I think it will be better we take him in his own words. He said, from experience in DNA testing, most firstborns are not fathered by the husbands at home because these ladies have a prior relationship before getting married. Most times they continue with that relationship. They don't leave it after marriage. In fact, 6 out of every 10 paternity tests turn out negative. Statistically, in DNA paternity testing, most times in Nigeria, we see that 6 of every 10 children might not be fathered by their biological father. Well, imagine this type of a thing. Isaac, a man hires a driver.
It's head shaking.
Instead of him to do the job for which he is employed, they fail to choose to drive his boss wife. Instead, until he gets her pregnant. Abomination. I'm just trying to give you a picture of the kind of things that lead to this paternity fraud. Then the man who sits down there thinking that he has a child until when issues pop up, then he now go to confirm. And before when he goes, he discovers that all this while the child he has been calling him daddy is not the biological child.
Yeah, if you ask me, I think we have to situate the issue in its in context. We're going to put it in context. Like I said earlier, it's heartbreaking, it's shaking, and the data or the interview with the geneticist, actually, raises so many flags. For example, I don't even know. I don't know if we are having more infertile men in Nigeria. Then if that is the case, then we should begin to ask questions. Why do we now have more infertile men in Nigeria? Is it because of our work culture? Is it because of the attention, the little or no attention that we pay to our health, for example? Then we also look at the options, that most couples resort to when they are looking for children. Okay. So, what actually caught my interest while I was reading that interview was the first son.
Sorry to cut you short. So maybe it's like our guest is here.
Okay.
Our guest for this program, I think, is already online. We have Professor Francis Faduyile, Professor of Pathology in Lagos State University. And of course, he's our special guest for this program. And of course, he'll be giving us an expert view on the paternity fraud and DNA testing in Nigeria. Prof, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here with you. Good afternoon, everybody.
Welcome, sir. You're on to the big issue, and of course, you are already aware of the topic of the big issue of the day, the paternity fraud and DNA testing. And of course, the first question we want to ask you, Prof, is what is the level of validity of the DNA testing? Is there any room for people to doubt the efficacy of the DNA test?
Well, thank you very much. We must state that the DNA is a test that that can differentiate every individual in the world. We need to first know that the DNA, we have over 99% of every human having about the same DNA. But it is this 1% that we can actually use to differentiate the different individual in the world. Also, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Prof.
Yeah. Also, we can use the DNA to trace the origin of a human being. You have seen some people in the foreign land, they can claim that they come from this part of Africa. Some may say they come from Benin because the DNA of such person will be mapped towards that area. So I can authoritatively say that the DNA can differentiate every single human being in the world. Now, for paternity issue, the father and the mother, they are the if they are the since they are the progenitor of the child, the child will take part of the DNA of the mother, will take part of the DNA of the father. And what is usually done is to now look at those areas that can segregate and check the DNA of the child at those areas. For every DNA, we have two allele, that is two levels, two lines. One will be from the father, one will be from the mother. So when you check the father's DNA, you check the mother's DNA, and you look at the same locus or loci, as we call it, you must be able to type the DNA from the father and from the mother to that child. So many times, when a child is not fathered by a particular man, the different areas that they can use to segregate will not tally with that of the child. And we can say that that child is most likely not being fathered by that man. But I can tell you authoritatively that the DNA is a very strong tool, it's a perfect tool to differentiate human beings generally. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Hello, I
Can
can't
you hear
hear
us,
you.
Prof, now?
Yes, I
Uh-huh.
can hear now.
Yes, why we raise this issue of the validity of the efficacy of the DNA testing is because a recent revelation showed that 6 of every 10 children taken for DNA turns out to be negative. It turns out to be that they are not really fathered by their supposed father. So at the end of the day, this is a very worrisome figure. And what do you think would be the reason for this kind of huge turnout of negativity in DNA test?
Well, thank you. This can be taken as one of the fallacy of statistics. You see, it is not every child that you go and do a DNA for. It is when there is dispute many times that you go and do the DNA. And there must be some suspicion, ab initio, before they will now go for the DNA of such child. So it may not be totally correct to say categorically that every 6 out of 10 firstborn are not fathered by their supposed father. It is because you have had a very tiny number of group of people who have issues to do with the paternity that goes for that test. So even with that, I can tell you that because of our cultural nature and the loss of our cultural activities during the times of yore, you have parents ensuring that their children are not having any form of sexual coitus before marriage. But today, it has we have lost that tradition and culture in our area. And I can tell you too, most single ladies who tend to marry tend to marry out of wedlock before they get married. It is the pregnancy that usually make them to say, okay, let me marry. And because of that, and well, many ladies may have one or two person who they are following. It may be difficult for them to know who is their real father. So I can tell you too, it's an issue that we believe is rife within our environment. But I want to say that it does not mean that the percentage means for every person in the public, in the population. If you want to have a population,
Yeah, Prof, sorry to cut in now. We're referring to a study, an interview that was published in Premium Times newspaper recently. And
yes,
we're using that, of course, just like with all researches. You take a sample, you administer your questionnaire, then you use the figure to generalize. So we're not saying everybody or I mean the whole Nigeria, we're referring to that particular interview.
Yes.
And the geneticists did say that out of every 10, people that came forward for the DNA testing, then 6 turned out to be fathered by other persons, as against their supposed fathers. And we want to use that those statistics, to engage you more. Like I told my colleagues earlier, I'm worried. Is it that we're having more infertile men in Nigeria? And if so, then why is that the case, Prof?
well, I can tell you that infertility is fairly common in this country. And we have this cultural belief that men are not infertile, that anybody who has infertility in marriage are tended to be the ladies. But I can tell you, largely we have a lot of men that are not fertile. However, we must say that the issue of a first child cannot be used to determine if we have more men who are infertile or not, because many of them may subsequently have children that are delivered to the family. But it is the cultural and the societal pressure, the activities of the would-be bride around the time in which they get pregnant that I think we should be looking at up to. Because if we are saying, does it mean that men are becoming infertile? It's certainly that it is certain that it's a man who actually got the lady impregnated. So we cannot use
But,
that.
but another, of course, another man or other men.
So it's still the same population. So I can say that men, we can't use that one to judge the infertility of men.
Well, Prof, why
Right.
I think why my colleague asked that question is that apart from the infidelity that normally leads to this paternity fraud, we still have another issue. We have the issue of cryptic pregnancy, where couples will now walk to the hospital and say we need a baby and we cannot get that baby, and then the wife now tells the doctors the sex of the baby, and before you know, they inject the pregnancy hormones into the woman, and they are the ones that are going to tell her when she's due for delivery, and then she comes, and then they fake a delivery situation where they now bring a baby for the woman, and they say that is your baby. You see, these are the kind of fraud we're talking about.
Well, I can
How?
say that. I can say that the society pressure is much in Nigeria, and it is our area. We want to have a family or a young couple, and within 6 months, 1 year, a lot of people are complaining that we expected them to have had pregnancy or have got a child, and we always believe that every marriage must end up with children. So the pressure is there. And now we have had advancement in technology. Today we can have artificial insemination. We can do test tube baby. We can have someone who will carry the pregnancy for the others. We can have women who are generally not being able to have eggs and be pregnant. And we have so many men who can actually do the activity, but they don't have any spermatozoa in their semen, and all of them must, in our society, have a child or the other. So that is why you are seeing a lot of, and it is because of the technology. Before, when the technology is not available, we tend to actually put those people in a position that they are like an outcast within the society. But today, many people are aware, many people can afford it, and that's why you are seeing a lot of them doing it. The one that is bad is the one that they will have to go and get children or babies when through the wrong ways. Today you can go and adopt, or otherwise you can get artificially to get a baby through the artificial insemination, and they will reimplant that baby within the uterus of the mother. So things are getting changed in this technology world.
Yeah, Prof, thank you so much. We've on this issue, I know that the women are more or less vilified, and here, see me, I'm surrounded by them all, but somehow it's our bronze who bear it. But what I want to ask is this: in where the issue of DNA testing comes up, and the families, they are well aware, or I don't know whether is it that the father is not aware of the process that they may have gotten undergone to have a child. That how can this issue be, kind of worked around so that when the testing comes out, it is even though it's not, the man is aware of it, the woman is not made to bear the brunt of it, so to say.
Well, I think sincerely there are so many things we have to put into consideration, and I think it's very difficult for you to see a child that is not the that the mother is not the actual mother. It is most possible or likely that we have children that are not fathered by their will-be father. And I can say the pressure is much more on the ladies. I've had cases in which even we have gone ahead to exhume bodies, to go and dig up corpses, to take sample from the man to confirm if a child is his or not his, because while he was alive, he may have had some other lady somewhere else and unknown to the family. So I think it is still by and large society pressure. I still take it as a cultural deficiency on our own side to look at children as not legitimate children or legitimate child. There is no child that is an illegitimate child. At least every child has a father, and even if it's not that particular man that is his father, he has a father. So I think the society will need to understand this and be able to absorb the ladies of that. But the major thing about the ladies is that if they know they are close to some people and one is more prosperous, sometimes they may want or they may tend to go to the more prosperous one. At least that is some assurance of better living. I think they need to know that times have changed, to assess and to know the father of any of the children is very easy. Very, very easy. It doesn't take any major invasive that you have to puncture, do anything. It's just book a smear and you can actually confirm. So we need to advise everyone to be more truthful in terms of our relationship between man and woman.
Prof, I want to ask you, what is the cost implication of having a DNA test? Is this something that the average person can easily afford? So you can now do that, we can recommend that men should still go and do the testing for their children. It's really available. Why do we waste time? I'll be sure so that we will leave it out. So what is the cost implication like?
Well, there's this saying that what you don't know does not harm you. So it is not ideal for you to just say, okay,
That's the every man now because the figure is so.
So I think we have to be careful in this regard. uh, Too much knowledge sometimes can harm some happy house. So except you have.
I think sorry to cut you short. Even the geneticist.
I can't hear anything. Hello, I can't hear.
Am I there?
Hello, can you hear us now, sir?
I can hear now.
Okay, what I'm saying is that
You're referring to that geneticist and marriage.
Yes. Salami said that if everyone start doing DNA tests in the country, the whole country will scatter. That there will be no marriages again.
What I see is that if you want people to be more honest, relating will reduce. If you know you are going to be caught, let them play cool. That's what marriage can still be there, but now if I going to tenets of marriage.
Let's hear what Prof has to say in this regard.
Well, as a Catholic, me myself as a Catholic, we are encouraged to go and do penance, go and confess your sin. But can you actually go outside and confess sin outside? The whole place will destroy. So, in as much as when we have doubt, it is advisable we do DNA. I don't think it should be a routine test because there are so many things that certainly. Look, Nigeria has been known, and it has been internationally known that Nigeria has a very high rate of infidelity, both for men and women. It is an international thing. So it's better for us not to make it a national policy that you have to do DNA, you have to do this. I don't think it's important. But if anybody has issue that you want to confirm, yes, you can go, but it shouldn't be a national policy.
Okay, finally, Prof, let's just ask you the final question, and this one is advisory. What now happens to the man who discovered that the child has been fathering is not the biological child? Should he stop paying their school fees and take away other responsibility has been taken as their father?
This is what we will.
And then, how does this affect the children? And how do they begin to heal psychologically and emotionally, Prof?
I will answer philosophically as a Yoruba man. They say someone who has a child, it is children that will bury him. Someone who does not have a child, it is also children that will bury him. Nobody knows a good child. Nobody knows a child that will take care of him. We have had cases even in the Bible in which we have children that have gone to attack their father and some wage war against their father. We have had some people who are not the children and they have been good to their supposed guidance. So every child or everybody that you have a chance to father, to lead, to take care of, I think we should do that. If not for anything, for humanity, because at the end of the day, every one of us will die. Either we have a child or not.
Thank you very much, Prof, for gracing us with your presence in this in leadership podcast. We are very grateful, sir.
Thank you.
We are hoping that we'll have you some other time again.
Thank you very much.
Oh, it's all right. Well, let's just quickly take a short break, and then when we come back, we will now begin to look at what Prof was saying about the paternity fraud and DNA testing. I bet just keep tap with us, Abia. We'll be back shortly.
Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it now is my very special pleasure and privilege to ask His Royal Majesty, the Sultan of Sokoto, the chairman or chairperson of the leadership group, to come forward and join me and hold on to one bit of this cloth so that we can jointly unveil the bigger, better, deeper level.
The Big Issue. Breaking down the issues that matter.
Well, welcome back to Leadership Podcast. And of course, we're still on the big issue. And the big issue of the day is DNA testing and paternity fraud in Nigeria. And of course, we had our guest, Professor Francis Faduile, Professor of Pathology, Lagos State University, who took time to enlighten us on the idea of DNA testing and the paternity fraud. And of course, you heard what he said, that it is internationally certified by statistics that Nigeria is second when it comes to fidelity and paternity fraud.
Yeah.
I think it says second to Jamaica.
Yeah. I
Wait, before you say something, I mean, you see, it's a contradiction that a country that has one of the largest number of Muslims and Christians will record such a good number of infidelities. It means that the pastors and imams are unfair in their responsibility of bringing up the faithful according to the dictate of their religion. What do you think?
Yes, the duty of the pastor or the imam is to preach. Then it is left to the members of the congregation to believe.
To practice
what they have been taught. So I won't blame the imams. They are doing their work. But I beg to differ with what Prof. Said about accepting, things the way we see it.
No, we're not talking to that one yet. You're only asking about the rate of Nigeria's
infidelity.
That depends. We'll come to Prof issue later.
Yes, well, I don't have a contrary figure. You understand?
Is that Nigerians are so vibrant when it comes to that kind of thing?
Well, it's tough. I want to believe him. That the figure. I think that it has been referenced before, in other literatures.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but the point is, just as we save money to buy cars, to build houses, so it's not enough for you to go and do your wedding. You should also save money to do the test, the paternity test, or especially your first school after your wedding.
Let me ask the Prof now.
Because that is what this data means.
It's all about.
So then after finding out, ascertaining the true father of the son or the child in your house, the decision of what to do with the situation is now yours to take. But I think it's a good thing to actually
No.
But don't forget that Prof
To
gave,
test trust.
but Prof gave us an advice here. That it does not mean that when you now discover that a child is not your biological child, you should just throw the away. I think what Prof was trying to say in essence is that we could really play the role of being the father of many nations.
It's an advisory.
Accept them.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
See, but there are some cultures that don't accept another person's child.
Yeah.
I know a particular man used to be a principal who was said to have died because he accepted the paternity of a son that was not his own, and he died under strange circumstances. So there are some cultures that forbid you to bring in somebody that's from outside once you know. Even if you don't know, there's something that happen for you to point to that there's something here.
Something is wrong.
Yeah. So you can keep the person, but you're not giving the status of a biological child of the family. But there are some other social, cultural issues with inheritance and other things to do with being a biological child. You have children,
Very true.
that biological children and that social children.
Yes.
Biological and social. So you can still have them as Paul said as your children, but how to deal with these other issues and something to do with the personality of the man and the woman involved. We have to talk about what to do with the women that have cheated the men. But if the woman knows that this is not his son or child and he has played that game, I don't think it should something that should just be lost over like that.
In some cultures, you actually divorce, the woman, and she lives in the house.
But before you go, let me ask Madam Issa, yes, because thank God we have a woman in our midst.
Yes.
Madam Issa, you can't imagine a situation where, okay, let me give one instance I gave before we started this program. That a man will hire a driver to do the job of driving. Instead of the fellow to concentrate on the job for which he's been hired, instead he decides to drive the guy's wife until
they will not have the woman until the woman agrees.
Why are women so
Some women.
Some women, sorry.
I think I have to come in here to say that
Tell us.
generalizing this matter is not good because there are so many virtuous women who are not party for this. And like we have seen the statistics that the geneticist brought up, he said first children. And like our guests have pointed out, the issue of societal pressure. So it means that it's not only the women's fault, albeit that what they have done is not right. But society is wrong. If you say not right, as if you are abomination.
Wrong in every sense of the term.
Is wrong. But at the same time, the pressure should be the husband and wife, after they have gotten married, they should allow them, let everything take a natural course and not mount so much pressure to have a child immediately, because you find out that mostly it is the first children, and it will be from the pressure that has been mounted, and the woman, you know that a woman that has not had a child, in fact, she's not standing on one leg in that house. If she's standing on quarter leg, then she has tried.
So she will resort to self-help.
She will resort to self-help. And also too, it could be that it's something that was consensual between them. They should go out. I've even had a case where a pastor and his wife, after waiting for so many years without having a child, they now decided on their own to go to seek medical help to help conceive. And at the end of the day, the woman conceived. The man was well aware of it. So
how did they medically conceive and the man was aware of it?
It could be
through IVF. They went to the hospital.
Okay, that was the problem.
But of course, you know that when it goes to the DNA, it will still come out as
that child.
No, sometimes it's still the male, the man's sometimes that is the man's something they use. Only that maybe there's some issues to the woman, everything, and they just implant it there. I know some cases like that. They tell that the man is okay, the woman is okay. They just have the technology.
No, in critical.
Those of fraud in it. What they do, the child stealing. How they do? I know two people in my town who have gone to collect 2 children from somewhere in Imo State and told them one of them is 60 years, one is 55 years, and I have the first children by 55 years. And nobody saw when they were pregnant, and they said they have gone and they would disappear for some time. So that one, to me, they just come and they were talking about some doctors that are doing it. So that one is fraud.
Yeah, there's another thing I also want us to point that this interview also raised is the fact that when men brag and pump their chest that they are superstars in infidelity, given the what this man is saying in this interview, it means men are actually learning. The women are better off
when it comes to infidelity. That is what I think. Isaac, this draws me back to what I was asking. We said that I was saying that the pastors and imams are unfair in their responsibility of bringing up, because at the end of the day, if they feed their flocks right, and if these
feed them what? The word of God.
What of some of these pastors and imams that don't even practice what they preach?
They will come to your house.
Let's not blame the man of God.
Their own is to preach. It is left for the person who is listening to practice or not. So they don't have it's not about
but the only point I would blame, the two religions you mentioned, especially Christianity. Even though they preach it, before we embraced Christianity in the pre-colonial days, our traditions had ways of checking, things like this. You get then women were made to swear to some family gods.
Yes.
That if you go out and sleep with another man, these are the things that will follow you. And those things worked. And of course, when Christianity came, well, I wouldn't say
it did not. Don't blame Christianity.
No, I'm coming now. When Christianity came, they say God is a liberal God. He forgives sins. In our traditional African, religions, there are no forgiveness for high wrongs, for serious wrongs.
It's not about religion. Somehow, over the years, modernity and all that go with it. We are learning from white men and all this. We started picking up, imbibing their values. Otherwise, I knew when my mother said, when my mother got married, she did not go to her husband's house unaccompanied. She did not sit in the husband's room for one day until they got worded, which took almost 1 year. There were almost 3 guests that stayed with her whenever she visited to make sure that the man did not encroach in her quarters. And every woman will go through that kind of training and this socialization before he gets married.
I think we need to go back.
So that takes time.
To some provisions, some of those cultural provisions that work for us.
Then now, with the time of internet,
before Christianity,
because for instance, what Amulia was saying, I understand. In those days, if a woman goes to sleep with a man that is not her husband, there are mystical things that used to happen.
Yes.
You understand? For instance, we have the Aleku in Idoma land, and then we have the Magun, otherwise known as Thunderbolt, in the Yoruba land. And these things will always keep women.
If you want to go by the provision of this, this research, it means that some of the people were even calling kings now.
Yes.
actually don't. They don't be 2 heads. They are throwing.
It's a serious social issue, and I think that families need to sit down, parents especially. They need to emphasize the kind of values that we should have in our children. A lot of times, our parents are more interested in trying to survive the economic times, to even pay attention to setting down the cultural things that should be. Those things are being glossed over.
There should be punishments. Every penalty.
And I think we had a comment from one of our viewers. I don't know. Maybe in the course of discussion we lost him out. Of course, yes, we have it here. We have Adebayo Amodu who is saying, do you think it's right for churches to ensure couples conduct a DNA test on their child before coming for child dedication ceremony?
Beautiful question.
Also, should DNA test be promoted as a national policy?
Yes.
I don't know whether I should national policy because I think already I have a lot of problems by dealing with. Okay. But whether they should.
This is foundation problem. We're talking about the happiness of the home.
Yes.
That is the beginning of everything.
Because I agree
If you
with
don't
them.
have happy homes,
I agree
you
with
cannot have
them.
happy
Listen, what do you
Nigeria.
think? When you go to church,
Yes.
before you go to church to dedicate your
Yes.
child, the pastor should ask you,
Yes.
what is the DNA certificate?
What about
All the religions, all the religions.
They don't do the child education in the
Well,
mosque.
in their own way, whatever it
There'll be
is.
so like even the geneticist said it
Yes.
that if every family is to go through a DNA, then a lot will be scattered.
Let
So
everything
the-
scatter,
so
then
the-
we'll start
the-
rebuilding.
The pastors that
We'll
you are
start
saying they
rebuilding
should do
on
this.
truth
If
and
when
justice.
the DNA result comes out and it is negative, are you going? Is he going to now advise the couple to separate? Because
Please don't tell the
he
woman to
wants
take
them-
the child to where she brought the child from.
Well, listen, you see. But I want to say something. It's not just about it.
Sorry to cut you. Abuda, you don't sound like you see what the prof advise us. That we should learn to even become father of many nations by admitting those children, because it's not only your biological
Let us
child that will marry.
individualize it. It is a matter of choice. If you want to.
That's one aspect that we are trying to forget. Not just male children, the first child.
Yeah, sure.
This man here says the 4 children he had were by some other men.
Okay.
And the man said, look at his reaction. He said his life has what? Crumbled.
Yes.
He feels that it's better for him not to have been
There's
born.
a story
So
where
this is a very
about
difficult
a judge
Okay.
who took his life.
Yes.
Many
When he
people
found out that
people are depressed
yes,
and
the
they
children that
you have been waking up in the night,
No,
playing them
actually,
games,
yes.
everywhere, did them through, and wake up that father that none of them is your child. So not your first children.
Yeah.
Some people, all the children, and not that if the man is not fit or able to do, just that for some reason the woman decided to play him that kind of game. That's the worst case scenario. But there are some cases, like you said, somebody mentioned something before coming to today. That in some cases, the woman may have been playing with some few men. You know, well, sometimes the woman wants to get married. That they often will come in at the same time. To be around to the man, the officer to come at the same time. And we try to pay each other to know which one will work. Then at the time you have gone from them, you don't know that I got one of them will not settle for one.
The reason for that is that sometimes they use women, they try to test and see that they don't do.
be testing, assessing,
I guess. Well,
if the DNA test is being conducted, I think the religious organizations, the churches and the mosques should be taken out of it. Before you bring your child before the church, do it at your own personal level and ascertain it at that level.
people have high regard for their pastors and their church leaders. Also, I think the churches should also play a role in
Play a
this.
very big role. It will help. Well, that is the much we can take for today's edition of the big issue. And of course, it has been the issue of DNA testing and paternity fraud. And of course, we've heard it all. Our guest, Professor Fadi, was here with us, and of course, he was able to give us insight into this idea of paternity fraud. And our in-house analyst, Silas, and Anamuria, they did a very good job here. And for want of time, we would have wanted to go on, but we are behind schedule. Join us tomorrow for another edition of the big issue. Have a very wonderful day.